Alien contact. The air inside the alien base was cold and quiet. Strange, glowing lights moved across the walls. Commander Zayla stood still, her large black eyes fixed on the figure lying in the medical pod. He was human. No alien on planet Zareth had ever seen one up close. Humans were stories from old signals, dangerous, emotional creatures from a blue planet called Earth. That planet was silent now. No signals had come for years. Most aliens believed Earth was dead. But this man, he had fallen from the sky. Zayla looked at his face. It was calm, too calm. His left leg was twisted the wrong way. One of his arms was broken badly. Any Zarethian would be screaming in pain. But this human, not a sound. His name, the record said, was Rick. Suddenly his eyes opened, bright green, sharp, alert. Zayla took a step back. Her assistant, a young alien named Vel, held up a scanner. "He is awake," Vel said, voice shaking. "But readings are strange. He is not in pain." Rick slowly sat up, ignoring his broken bones. He looked around. His breathing was slow and steady. Zayla spoke in basic language, one they had learned from old Earth signals. "You are injured. Do not move." Rick didn't answer. Instead, he reached for his arm. With one quick motion, he grabbed the broken part and twisted it back into place. Crack! Vel screamed. Zayla's heart raced. Blood rushed to her head, and then darkness. Zayla passed out. She woke up moments later on the floor. Vel was helping her up. "Commander, are you okay?" Zayla sat up slowly. Her eyes found Rick again. He was now standing near the pod, using metal bars for support. His leg was still bent, but he stood like it didn't matter. How are you standing?" she whispered. Rick finally spoke. His voice was rough but calm. "I've had worse." Zayla stared at him. "You should be unconscious." He shrugged. "Guess I'm not normal." In the medical lab, alien scientists began testing him. They scanned his body, studied his cells, checked his brain waves. What they found shocked them. Rick's nerves worked differently. When pain signals went up, his heart rate went down. When injured, his body healed faster. His blood was rich in something unknown, some kind of nanoserum flowing in his veins. "He is human," said one scientist. "But something else too." Rick sat in silence as they worked around him. He didn't ask questions, didn't complain, just watched. Zayla came to him. "You remember anything about your crash?" Rick closed his eyes. Fire, falling, cold, then voices. "What about before?" That, he shook his head. "Nothing clear, only pieces." He looked down at his hands. "I remember someone telling me, you won't feel pain anymore." That night, as the base lights dimmed, Zayla stood near the observation window. Stars blinked in the sky. Her mind was racing. This human had crashed here. His body was broken, but his mind was sharp. He felt no pain, remembered nothing. And yet, something inside him felt dangerous. She tapped a button on her wrist. A message flashed across the screen. "Keep him under watch. Do not trust him yet." In the sleeping quarters, Rick sat alone. He looked at his arm. The skin was bruised but healing fast. He had told them the truth. He didn't remember much. But in the silence of the room, his mind whispered things. He saw flashes. A white room, people in lab coats, needles, wires in his skull, pain, screams. Voice calling his name. "Rick, focus, don't let the pain win." Then another voice, cold and robotic. "He is ready. Deploy him." Rick opened his eyes. What was he? The next morning, the base alarm beeped. A strange signal was picked up, faint, but real. Zayla rushed to the control room. "It's not from us," Vel said. "Who then?" she asked. Vel pointed at the screen. The signal showed a strange pattern. 3 dots, 1 line, then silence. Rick entered the room. His eyes locked on the pattern, and suddenly, he spoke. "I've seen this before." Everyone turned to him. "Where?" Zayla asked. Rick stared at the signal. I don't know, he said. But when I see it, my whole body feels like it's burning. Zayla narrowed her eyes. This human had secrets, and they were just beginning to show. The tests, the cold white walls of the alien lab hummed with quiet energy. Machines beeped softly, sharp lights danced across screens, scanning the body of the strange human who had fallen from the sky. Rick lay on a smooth metal table, his eyes half open, watching every movement. He didn't trust them, and they didn't trust him either. Commander Zayla stood behind the glass, arms crossed. Her face was calm, but her mind was a storm. This human, Rick, was a mystery wrapped in something dangerous. Broken bones healed too fast. Pain didn't touch him. And last night, he had recognized a strange alien signal they had never seen before. How? Inside the lab, a Zerethian doctor named Dr. Yael moved slowly around Rick. His fingers tapped the scanner. His blood is alive, Yael said, amazed. Cells are regenerating. There's something artificial. Zayla pressed the mic. Be careful, he's not just a subject, he's aware. Rick smirked from the table. You talk like I'm not here. Yael jumped a little. Rick sat up. I'm not your machine. If you want to test me, talk to me. Yael hesitated. What are you? Rick's smile faded. I wish I knew. For the next 3 days, they ran every test possible. They dropped him into zero gravity, tested his strength, scanned his brain. Results shocked them. Strength, 10 times. More than any human record. Pain resistance, complete. Even when they used intense nerve simulations. Reflexes, faster than most Zerethian soldiers. Brain activity, different parts lit up at the same time, like his brain was running more than one program. He's a machine, Yael whispered one night, but with a soul. In the evenings, Rick walked the hallways under heavy guard. He kept to himself, but his eyes missed nothing. He could see energy lines behind the walls, hear the machines whisper, predict movements before they happened. He even helped an engineer fix a damaged plasma gate without being asked. How did you know how to fix that? Zayla asked. Rick shrugged. I don't know. My hands just moved. Zayla stared. This man was no ordinary survivor. He was built, programmed, prepared. But for what? One night, Rick sat in his room, alone. No guards, no lights. His mind burned, with flashes, broken memories full of pain. He saw a lab, a table, his own body being rebuilt, a group of Earth scientists arguing. Then a voice, clear and loud. Version 7 failed. Increase pain threshold. Kill the emotions. Then darkness. Rick fell to his knees, gasping. His body was shaking, but not from fear, from something awakening. The next morning, Zayla came to his room. Rick looked tired. Sweat covered his face, eyes bloodshot. You remember something? She said. He nodded slowly. They changed me. I wasn't born like this. Who are they? Rick stared out the window. I don't know, but they made me strong and cold. They wanted me ready for something. Zayla sat beside him. Do you think they're human? Rick laughed softly. They used to be. Suddenly alarms blared in the base. A new signal had arrived. Zayla and Rick rushed to the command deck. The signal was stronger this time, louder, repeating faster. The same strange pattern as before. 3 dots. 1 line. Pause. Repeat. It's coming from outside the sector, Vel said. Too far for us to trace. Yael added. Rick stepped closer. His face went pale. I know this signal. It's a call. Zayla turned to him. A call? To what? Rick closed his eyes. To something old and violent. How do you know? He pointed at his head. Because I'm connected to it. Rick agreed to let them scan his brain again. This time they found something new. A hidden code buried deep inside his mind. Locked by trauma. Not organic, Artificial. It's like a switch, Yael whispered. Someone placed this here, and when the right signal reaches him, it'll unlock. Rick sat up slowly. You mean they planted a trigger? Zayla nodded. We don't know what it activates. Could be memory, could be something worse. Rick looked down at his hands. They were shaking now. I think I wasn't sent here by accident, he said. I think I'm a warning. Later, Zayla watched the lab footage alone. In one video, Rick was asleep, monitored by sensors. At exactly 03:12, the signal flashed through the base. Rick's body reacted, his pulse dropped, eyes moved rapidly, and then, for 10 seconds, his brainwaves matched something in their archives. It was not human, and not alien. It was something unknown, something ancient. And for 10 seconds, Rick was part of it. Zayla sent a private message to Central Command. Subject is more than human. I believe he was created as a bridge between species, or between life and something darker. Meanwhile, Rick stood in front of a mirror. He looked into his own eyes. Deep down, behind the color, he saw it. A shadow. Something was inside him. Not a spirit. Not a memory. A purpose. But he didn't know if it was his own. That night, as stars blinked over planet Zareth, Rick whispered to himself, they didn't just build me to survive. They built me to end something. And somewhere far across the galaxy, something heard him and woke up. The signal, the nights on planet Zareth were long and silent. No birds, no wind, only the hum of machines and the endless watch of the stars above. But that silence didn't bring peace anymore. It brought questions. Rick stood alone on the base roof, staring at the sky. He didn't sleep much these days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes. Bright lights, screaming voices, metal needles. Pain. But now there was something new. The signal. It wasn't just noise. It was alive. And somehow, it was calling him. Inside the command room, Commander, Zayla and her team were studying the pattern. 3 dots, 1 line, pause. Over and over, always the same. It's not language, said Vel, looking frustrated. It's not random either, added Yael. Something intelligent is repeating this. It wants to be heard. Rick entered the room quietly. It doesn't just want to be heard, he said. It wants me to follow it. They turned to him. How do you know? Zayla asked. Rick didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked up to the central screen. The signal flashed again. 3 dots, 1 line, pause. Rick stepped back. I've seen this in my dreams, he said. Not just the pattern, but the place it comes from. Vel leaned forward. You dream about a place? Rick nodded. A dead world. Black skies. Towers reaching into space. Machines crawling across the ground like insects. Zayla and Yael looked at each other. The Forbidden Zone, Yael whispered. In Zarethian history, the Forbidden Zone was a region of space where no one traveled anymore. Centuries ago, powerful signals came from there. Strange messages, strange voices, and then silence. Every ship that went in never came back. Rick pointed to the star map. This is where the signal is coming from, he said. How can you be sure? Zayla asked. Because I can feel it, Rick answered. And it's getting closer. They decided to investigate. The journey would take 4 days. Zayla chose a small team. Herself, Rick, Vel, and 2 defense drones. Rick stayed quiet as the ship launched into space. But inside, his chest felt heavy, like a storm was forming behind his ribs. On the 3rd day, things began to change. Rick started hearing whispers. Soft, cold voices. Not in words, but feelings. Loneliness, pain, hunger. He didn't tell the others. On the 4th day, they reached the edge of the Forbidden Zone. Outside the ship's windows, space looked wrong. Darker. Colder. Still. No stars. No light. Only a dead planet floating ahead. Gray. Cracked. Silent. Rick stepped forward, breathing hard. This is the place. They landed near a giant broken structure. It looked like a tower but twisted, like it had melted halfway and frozen in time. As they stepped outside, Rick dropped to one knee, holding his head. The signal was now inside his skull, flashing, burning. And then, he remembered. A memory returned. Like lightning. Rick was strapped to a chair. Men in lab coats, bright screens. One man was shouting, "We have to send him now. The enemy's signal is active. But he's not ready. We don't have time." The chair spun. Cold liquid filled his veins. Rick screamed as his body turned to fire, and then a voice calm and cold. "Let the weapon guide us. The signal will lead him back." Rick opened his eyes. He was breathing fast. Sweat poured down his face. Zayla knelt beside him. "What happened?" Rick looked at her, eyes wide. "I wasn't in a crash. They sent me." Zayla froze. "Who?" "Earth. Humans. The last ones." He stood slowly. "They made me as a weapon, to find what destroyed them, and stop it." Yael's voice came over the comms. "Commander, you need to see this." Inside the tower ruins, the team found a message pod buried in ash. Yael wiped the dust and activated it. A hologram appeared. An old man in a lab coat, weak and tired. "If you're seeing this," the man said, "then Project Reborn worked." Rick stepped forward. The man continued, "You are version 9, the only one who survived. We gave you everything: strength, memory, pain control, instinct. But we couldn't finish your mind. The signal was already reaching you. We had to erase what we could, send you away, into the future, into silence." The man coughed. "You are our last hope, our last voice, and our last weapon." The message ended. No one spoke. Rick turned away. He felt hollow inside, like his soul had been replaced with metal. As they prepared to leave, Vel picked up another signal. One not from the pod. "Commander, something's waking up." Rick's eyes flashed. "We need to leave. Now." The ground began to shake. Machines, half buried in dust, rose from the ruins. Not alive, not dead, but watching. Zayla ordered retreat. The ship lifted quickly. As they broke through the dark clouds, Rick looked back down. Hundreds of red lights now glowed on the planet's surface. The enemy had heard the signal too. On the journey back, the crew sat in silence. Rick finally spoke. This wasn't a message. "What was it then?" Zayla asked. Rick stared out the window. A beacon, a warning. And now that I've answered it, they know where we are. In the shadows of the galaxy, deep in the forbidden zone, something old and massive began to move, not a machine, not a creature, something worse. And it had waited a very long time for someone like Rick to arrive. The Forbidden Zone. The return to planet Zareth was not quiet. The signal hadn't stopped. It had changed. It no longer repeated the same pattern. Now it pulsed like a heartbeat. Slow, steady, alive. And it followed them. Commander Zayla stood on the bridge of the ship, staring at the scanner. The signal was still behind them, like a shadow across space. "It's learning," Rick said from the back. "It's watching us." Zayla turned. "How do you know?" Rick didn't answer. He couldn't explain the growing pressure in his chest or the way his bones felt like they were vibrating. He didn't hear the signal anymore. He felt it, inside his spine, under his skin. Something ancient was reaching through space, calling to him, and something inside him was answering. When they landed, Zareth's main base went into lockdown. Defense systems activated. Scanning towers swept the skies. The signal had followed them home, and now the entire planet was listening. Rick was kept under constant watch. Not by force, he didn't fight, but for safety. The scientists feared what he might become, even he didn't know. Zayla stayed close to him. Not as a guard, but as something else now. someone who wanted to understand. "What are you feeling?" she asked him during one of their long walks through the dark corridors. Rick paused. "Like I'm waking up," he said, "and I'm not sure if I'll like the thing I find." 3 days later, the signal pulsed again. Stronger, but this time it wasn't just sound. A shape appeared on the scanners. A black mass, too far to identify, moving slowly across the edge of space, heading toward Zareth. "It's not just a signal anymore," Bell said, voice shaking. "It's a ship." Rick's voice was quiet but firm. "No, it's not a ship." He pointed at the screen. "It's a hive." The Zarethian Council met in secret chambers. Panic spread like fire. "We should destroy the human," one elder said. "He brought this here," another hissed. Zayla stood firm. "You didn't see what I saw. He didn't bring it. He was sent to stop it." But the council was afraid. Fear makes minds close. Rick was ordered to be locked down, alone, guarded. He didn't resist. Inside the dark cell, Rick sat on the floor, breathing slow. His eyes stared at the wall, but he wasn't really seeing it. Inside his mind, a storm raged. Memories and fake memories swirled. He saw Earth cities burning, saw machines tearing through streets, saw men and women fighting with weapons that melted the air. And above it all, a shape in the sky, a giant, black, living mass. Not a god, not a ship, a hive mind, a swarm that consumed intelligence. Not bodies, minds. And Rick? Rick had been their experiment to fight it. A human immune to pain, immune to fear. A man built to enter the hive and burn it from the inside. Suddenly, the walls of his cell trembled. The base shook. Alarms screamed. The signal had reached the atmosphere. Zayla ran through the base toward Rick's cell. Inside, she found him standing, calm. "It's here," he said. She nodded. "We have minutes, maybe less." Rick walked toward her, but the guards raised their weapons. "Stand down," Zayla shouted. "He's not the threat." Rick stepped past the guards. "I know what to do," he said. "Do you remember?" she asked. Rick looked her in the eyes. "Not everything, but enough." In the command chamber, the scanner showed the object clearly now. It wasn't flying like a ship. It crawled across the sky, a floating mountain of black, shifting metal and flesh. Blinking red eyes, tentacle-like structures reaching toward the ground like fingers trying to grab the planet itself. "That's not technology," Yael whispered. "It's alive." Rick stepped forward. "No, it's worse." "What is it then?" Vel asked. Rick clenched his fists. "It's the end of ideas, the death of thought. It doesn't eat your body. It rewrites your mind, turns you into part of itself." Zayla stared at the screen, horrified. "A hive?" Rick nodded. "And it only wants one thing, to know everything. And once it knows you, you're gone." Zayla turned to him. "You said you were built to stop it. How?" Rick took a deep breath. "They put a code in me. Something ancient. Something from the beginning of human thought. Not logic. Not science." "Then what?" Yael asked. Rick smiled for the first time. "Choice." A sudden blast hit the base. Power failed. Lights flickered. Systems went dark. The hive had arrived. From the sky, black tendrils pierced the ground like spears. They began pulling data, memories, even dreams. From those who stood too close, Rick turned to Zayla. "Take me to the ship. I can stop it, but not from here." In the final minutes before launch, Zayla joined Rick in the hangar. She handed him a small metal cube. "What's this?" he asked. "Our last firewall," she said. "If you reach the core of the hive, this will burn everything, including your mind." Rick nodded. "I understand." She looked at him with strange sadness. "Do you?" He smiled again. "I was made for this." As the ship launched, Rick stared at the growing mass ahead. Inside the hive, a voice waited. Not a sound, not words, but a question. "What will you choose?" Rick answered in his mind. "I'll choose to stay human. And the hive heard him, and for the first time in 1,000 years, it hesitated. The awakening space was no longer black. As Rick's small ship moved toward the hive, the stars began to disappear behind him, swallowed by the darkness surrounding the creature in the sky. He had seen it from a distance before, but now, face to face, he realized the truth. This thing was not just a machine, not just a mind. It was a memory, alive, broken, endless, and it wanted him back. Inside the ship, systems began to fail. Controls flickered. The AI started speaking nonsense, mumbling old Earth poetry. The hive was already reaching in, infecting thought, pulling strings. But Rick was calm. His body had begun to change hours ago, skin pulsing, veins glowing with dull blue light. The code buried in his brain was waking. He remembered pain now, not just from his past, but from every version of him that came before. Project Reborn had failed 8 times. Rick was version 9, but now he knew why he had survived. In a flash of light, the hive pulled him in. His ship vanished from Zareth's scanners. To them, it looked like he had disappeared. But Rick didn't die. He crossed over. The inside of the hive was not a place. It was a mind. Rick stood in a space with no sky, no ground, only flickers of memories around him. Earth cities, alien landscapes, burning stars, all floating like glass shards. He wasn't alone. Shadows moved between the memories, shapes of people long gone. Some were human, some were alien. None of them had faces anymore. They stared at him with empty eyes. Whispers filled the air. You are late. You were born to end us, or become one of us. Rick kept walking. He didn't know how or where, but his body moved forward, toward something, a core, a center. Then, the voice spoke. This time, not just inside his head. It filled the Yao, space like thunder. Why do you fight your design? Rick stopped. The air around him formed into a shape, a giant figure made of broken thoughts. It looked like a human but kept changing. Sometimes a scientist, sometimes a soldier, sometimes a child. Rick clenched his fists. You're the hive. The figure nodded. We are memory. We are the future of thought. We collect minds to protect the galaxy from chaos. By stealing them, by saving them. Rick shook his head. You erase choice. Choice is pain. Pain creates war, fear, death. But it also creates love, Rick said. Hope, sacrifice. Things you'll never understand. The figure moved closer. You were built to carry pain. And now you carry all the pain of your species. Don't fight it. Let it go. Join us, and you will never feel it again. Rick stepped back. For a second he felt tired, like his bones had turned to ash. The idea of silence, no more pain, no more confusion, was tempting. But then, he heard a voice, not the hive's, Zayla's voice. Yui gave me purpose again, and another memory. A child laughing once long ago. He didn't know if it was real, but it felt real, and that was enough. I am pain, Rick whispered. I am broken. His body lit up, but I am mine. He opened his hand and revealed the metal cube Zayla had given him. You want my mind? He asked. Take it. He crushed the cube. A shockwave of light exploded from his body. Memories around him shattered. The glass cities, the forgotten faces. The voice. Everything began to burn, Rick screamed. Not from pain, but from freedom. His own mind was being erased by his choice. And in that moment he awakened. His real body collapsed into the heart of the hive. For a moment he didn't breathe. Then, his heart beat once, twice, again, but it wasn't just human anymore. The blue light in his veins turned white. Pure. Stable. And inside his mind, he saw it. The original code. The thing Earth scientists had found, buried in an ancient cave, Not alien. Not man-made. Something older. It was free will, shaped like energy, and now it lived inside him. The hive began to collapse, not explode, not burn. Collapse inward. The minds it had stolen were returning, to the stars, to space, to peace. Rick floated through the wreckage, his body breaking and rebuilding at the same time. But this time, it wasn't pain. It was rebirth. He wasn't version 9 anymore. He was something new, something final, on planet Zareth. The skies cleared. Scanners showed no sign of the hive. But Zayla stared at the stars, her heart racing. She knew he was alive. Not as a man, but as an answer. Far across space in a silent void, a pulse of white light moved like a breath. And from that breath, a whisper was born. I remember who I am. Betrayal and truth. The skies above planet Zareth were quiet again. No black clouds. No red lights. No whispers from the hive. For the first time in weeks, the stars looked normal. But deep underground, within the Zarethian base, something was not normal at all. Commander Zayla sat alone in the war chamber, reviewing the last transmission from Rick's ship. The moment he vanished into the hive. The moment everything changed, Rick had sacrificed himself, or so she believed. He stopped. She whispered to herself. He saved us. But something inside her didn't rest. Something small, something sharp, a feeling. Not everything adds up. Hours later, Zayla entered the restricted archive, the vault that held old Earth logs, data from the original human transmissions, collected long ago before Earth went dark. Only a few had access. She wasn't supposed to be one of them, but now she needed answers. Inside the archive, cold screens lit up with files. Project Reborn, V9 Final Phase, Human Weapon, Temporary Consciousness. Zayla's fingers stopped. Temporary? She opened the file, and what she read made her blood run cold. Subject V9 will believe he has free will. The emotional layer is necessary to activate the hive core without resistance. Once full mental integration occurs, the backup code will trigger self-erase. Reborn units are not meant to survive after mission completion. She stepped back, shaking. Rick hadn't just been sent to destroy the hive. He was never meant to come back at all. But he did. A sharp alarm rang out through. The base motion detected Sector 9 outside the blast zone, near the edge of the desert. Movement? Vel said over comms. Out there? That's impossible. Zayla stared at the monitor. A figure walked through the dust. Tall, slow, glowing. Rick. They brought him inside quickly, scanning for infection, tracking every heartbeat, but he was clean. His body glowed faint white. His eyes, calmer, deeper, not cold, but clear. Yael gasped. It's not possible. The code should have erased you. Rick turned to her. I erased the code instead. No one knew what to say. Rick looked at Zayla. I came back because I remembered something you said. What? That I gave you. Purpose. He smiled gently. I think you gave me mine too. But not everyone on Zareth was happy. In the shadows of the base, a figure moved through the lower levels. His name was Sendler, a high-ranking science officer, once trusted. But Sendler had a secret. Long ago, before Rick even arrived, he had made contact with a piece of the hive. A fragment, and he had kept it hidden, fed it, studied it, worshipped it. Because he believed the hive wasn't death. It was evolution. When Rick returned, Sendler felt it. The connection. The way Rick's presence burned through the signal made the fragment scream in silence. Rick was a threat, and threats had to be removed. 2 nights later, Zayla was walking the lower levels alone when she found the door open. The old lab. Sealed for years. Inside, she saw it, a piece of living hive matter kept in a glass tank, still alive, moving, breathing. How is this here? She whispered. And then, a hand on her shoulder. "Senlor, you shouldn't have seen that," he said. Zayla turned. "You've been hiding this? All this time?" He smiled. "It speaks to me. You betrayed us." "No," Sendler said calmly. "I've been preparing us. The Hive was never our enemy. Rick is. He ended something that was supposed to continue." "You're insane." Sendler stepped back. "Maybe. But when the others understand, they'll follow me." "They won't." Sendler smiled. "They already have." At that moment, base systems shut down. Power, lights, security, offline, and internal. Virus, triggered by Sendler, spread through Zareth's defense core. Rick felt it immediately. He ran toward the control center. Too late. Emergency lights flickered red, halls locked, doors jammed, and from below, the tank shattered. The Hive fragment had escaped. But something unexpected happened. The fragment didn't attack the base. It crawled toward Rick. And it spoke. Not with sound, but inside him. "You are one of us. Unfinished. We can complete you." Rick didn't flinch. He stepped forward. Sayla shouted behind him. "Don't!" Rick raised a hand. The fragment paused. And then, Rick's veins lit up again, bright and white. He whispered something only the fragment could hear. "You were built to take. I was built to choose." A burst of light erupted from his body. The fragment screamed and turned to ash. Rick fell to his knees, breathing hard. Zayla ran to him. "Are you okay?" "It's not over," he said. Sendler let the Hive speak. But it wasn't just speaking to me. In the main hall, Sendler stood before a small group of soldiers, eyes glowing faint red. He had infected them already. "You see now," he said. "Rick is dangerous. He brings pain. I offer peace." But the base doors opened. Rick walked in, calm, unarmed. "You don't want peace," he said. "You want silence." Sendler raised his weapon. "You're a failed weapon, Rick, a broken machine." Rick shook his head. "No, I was broken. Now I'm awake." The soldiers hesitated. Rick walked closer. "I feel everything," he said. "The fear, the pain, the weight. But that means I'm alive." He looked at them. "Don't give that away. Not even for peace." One by one, their weapons dropped. Senlor screamed and rushed forward. Rick caught him and whispered, "You let the Hive in. Now feel what it left behind." He pressed his hand to Sendler's chest. A white flash. And Sendler collapsed, his mind erased. Not by force, but by truth. Rick looked around the silent hall. "It's over," he said softly. But in his heart, he knew it wasn't, because something deeper was still hidden. Not in space, but inside him, and whatever it was waking up next. Last stand, the stars above Zareth had gone quiet again. But this silence was different, not peaceful. Waiting, like the whole universe was holding its breath. Rick stood at the edge of the cliff overlooking the valley. It was dawn. Blue light stretched across the rocky surface. The wind touched his skin, and for the first time he felt cold. Not the kind of cold that came from weather, a soul-deep cold. He was changing again. But this time, he wasn't sure what he was becoming. Sayla approached him slowly. "You haven't slept in days," she said. "I don't need sleep anymore." Rick replied softly. His eyes were distant, thoughtful, almost afraid. Sayla stood beside him in silence. Then she asked, "What do you see?" Rick pointed toward the sky. A second signal. She frowned. "From the Hive?" Rick nodded. "No, something older." In the control center, scans picked up a strange pulse across the edges of deep space. It wasn't coming from the Forbidden Zone. It was coming from beyond the galactic rim. No known species lived there. No maps. No history. But the signal was moving fast, and it wasn't trying to hide. It was coming straight for them. Yael, now leading the science team, decoded parts of the signal. What she found shook her to the core. It's a reply, she told Zayla. To the original hives. Collapse. From who? Yael's voice dropped to a whisper. The ones who made it. Rick stood before the council. His skin had begun to glow faintly again. Not white, not blue, silver, pure, still light. You built me to fight the hive, he said, but the hive was only a branch. The room was silent. Rick looked each council member in the eyes. There's something older out there. Something that planted the idea of the hive. Something that creates order not by killing, but by rewriting reality. Vel whispered. How? Do you know this? Rick closed his eyes. Because they left it inside me. The base entered emergency preparation mode. Zareth's skies turned red. The pulse was close now. The stars around the planet blinked, then vanished, eaten by a field of silence. This isn't a ship, Yael said. It's a concept. What does that mean? Zayla asked. Yael struggled to answer. We think it's a machine that removes possibility. It removes futures. It doesn't kill planets. It removes choice itself. Rick knew what he had to do. He walked to the same launch bay where he had left before. This time he wasn't alone. A full Zarethian fleet stood ready. Zayla stood with him. You're not doing this alone, she said. Rick shook his head. You won't survive what's out there. Maybe not, she said. But you taught us something. Pain doesn't mean weakness. It means we're alive. As the fleet moved toward the black space ahead, the enemy finally appeared. Not a creature, not a god, not even a hive. An event. A sphere of collapsing stars. Every few seconds, reality folded into itself around it. Ships disappeared. Signals faded. Choices erased. Inside the sphere, nothing existed. Not even thought. Rick's ship reached the outer edge of the field. He felt his memories shift. For a second, he forgot his name. For a second, he thought he was still human. Then the pain came, sharp and pure, and he remembered again who he was, why he existed, and what he had to become. Inside the ship, he opened the final layer of code in his mind, something the Earth scientists had hidden, not just a weapon, but a mirror, a reflection of everything the enemy feared: free will, compassion, sacrifice, the human soul. And now, it burned inside him like a second sun. The fleet outside was falling apart. Ships crumbled. Weapons failed. Zayla's voice came through the radio. We're losing power. Rick, if you have a plan, now's the time. Rick stood at the center of his ship, his body glowing brighter. I'm going inside. That's suicide. Yael's voice cried. You'll vanish like the rest. Rick smiled. Maybe. Then, he jumped. As his ship passed into the collapse field, time bent. Rick saw every version of himself, every failed clone, every broken memory. They all stood beside him, and in the center, the source, a being of pure silence. No face, no shape. It turned to him and spoke without sound. You do not belong. You are contradiction. Rick stepped forward. No, he said. I'm the only truth you never wanted. He opened his arms and let the full code explode. Outside, the Zarethian fleet saw a flash like the birth of a star. Then, nothing. No enemy. No collapse field. Just stars and silence. The right kind of silence. Peaceful. Zayla returned to Zareth. She walked alone that night. No one asked if Rick had survived. They all knew the answer, and yet, something in the air felt different. A week later, a faint signal appeared on the scanners. Just one sentence, from deep space, from nowhere. I chose. Zayla smiled. She looked up at the stars and whispered, You were more than human. You were the reason we still believe in choice.